Welcome to the walkthrough of frequently made mistakes I observed when reviewing Assignment 4 for my CS 3251 course in summer 2022. First, please take a shot at rewriting all your array list methods so they use your iterators with the STL algorithms rather than by using the scoped_array.get stuff that you did in the previous assignment. You can do this by adding const begin and end methods, which are basically factor methods, to your ArrayList.h class, and then of course providing the implementations of said methods in your ArrayList.cpp class, which are going to be quite identical to what you have for your existing non-const begin and end methods, just they work now with consts. So take a look down here, let's see some examples of things to be improved. Please use the fill algorithm using begin and end iterators, and you don't have to use a local variable. You can use the const begin end methods in your ArrayList.h class and .cpp class implementation, and that'll simplify things a bit, make it a little cleaner. Down here, similar kind of issue. Please avoid using the source marray.get methods, which require awkward pointer arithmetic, but instead use your begin and end iterators on the source param, and you'll have to do that by adding the const begin end methods to your ArrayList.h class. Down here, similar thing, we don't need to make local variable iterators if you add the const begin end methods to your ArrayList.h class. And also this code is incorrect because you have to copy from sources begin and end iterators to this begin. And this code doesn't do that, it's doing something different, so it's going to have some problems. Let's now take a look at some issues with the add method. The add method is one that really needs to mostly just delegate to the underlying other add methods. So this is the one that's being delegated to, and this code should be refactored so that any logic that could mutate anything occurs before we swap the temporary and array lists, because otherwise the solution will not be strongly exception safe. If you do the swap before you do the assignment here or before you do the fill here, then if an exception is thrown, your code is not going to be strongly exception safe. So please make sure you revise that so that swap is going to come at the very end after everything else is done. This code here doesn't really belong here. It should probably be moved into the add helper method. We'll take a look at that later. That needs to be improved too. And again, please don't prematurely swap. There's no point in swapping until you finish doing all the copying or filling, because if you do the swapping and filling first, then of course if an exception is thrown, you've kind of missed the whole point of why you're doing this scoped array in the first place. Here's issues with the get method. I'm not sure what's going on here. There's no need to have a call to valid range inside of an if statement, especially because it doesn't do anything. It just returns true, which is fine, but the valid range method down here, if we take a look at the code, throws an exception, and then it returns a Boolean. There's no need to do that. Just have valid range return void, using return in quotes here, and just call valid range up here, and there's no need for the if statement at all. Let's now turn our attention to some remove issues. Please don't create local variables like this. Instead, use the const begin end methods in ArrayList.h and of course the implementation in ArrayList.cpp. This particular implementation of swap is I'm not sure what it's doing exactly, but it's not what you think it's doing. It's going to be causing some problems. So what you want to do is you want to do a swap for each of the fields in ArrayList rather than what's being done here. I'm not really sure what's being done here, but it's wrong. Down here, this is the wrong parameter to pass to the ArrayList iterator constructor. We need instead to take a pointer to the underlying array, not a scoped array, not the address of the scoped array or whatever. So this code is weird. Please don't write code like that. Down here, please revise this code so there's no need to use operator plus, but instead you just pass the appropriate pointer to the ArrayList iterator's constructor. So that'll be a little cleaner and faster. Down here, here's the operator equality. This can be done much simpler just by checking to see if the pointer, m pointer, equals the RHS m pointer field. I'm not sure what this is doing, but it looks complicated and probably wrong. Also, this implementation is just incorrect. You don't want to be checking whether what the pointers point to are equal. You want to check whether the pointers are equal. That's what the equality is doing for list iterator. It's a really good idea to get in the habit of always implementing operator not equal in terms of operator equal. And while it's, in this case, very trivial to do it the way it's done here, I recommend you get in the habit of doing it by calling the operator equal, operator equality, and then negating the result in order to be able to get the equal, the inequality operator. I don't think this method is doing what you think it's doing. It's not really incrementing m pointer. It's just adding 1 to this and dereferencing it. I'm not sure what on earth that's doing, but that's probably not a good thing, and it's definitely not incrementing the m pointer by 1. Down here, this code is a good example of how you can remove the use of temporary variables by clever use of pre-increment or pre-decrement operations. This is the post-increment operator, and so we'll basically create a new array list iterator with the current m pointer value and then increment it by 1. Down here, please simplify this operator plus to avoid creating a local variable. There's no need to do that. That's a good example where you should just get in the habit of just returning an anonymous instance of array list iterator with the right parameters passed to the constructor. Much cleaner, much more concise. This code is way too complicated. I'm not quite sure what it's doing. Didn't have any comments, but just don't do something that complicated. Just subtract the RHS m pointer from the m pointer. If for some reason things are awry, that's because the program has done something incorrect, and the STL semantics are intentionally designed not to go to heroic lengths to try to make things work. If people do crazy things, that's just the basis for how iterators and other mechanisms in STL are defined. They assume the programmer knows what they're doing. This code is way too complicated. Just say, in this case, that these 3 lines of code are too complicated. Just say m pointer plus equal offset and then return star this. Down here, please use the plus equal operator rather than the equal m pointer plus offset. That's just too complicated for its own good. This code I don't think is actually incrementing m pointer at all. It's just adding it to this, which again is probably not what you want. But do you want to increment m pointer? This code here is too complicated. Please just return the m pointer subscripted by index, much cleaner and more concise. And then finally, this code is also too complicated. There's no need for creating a local variable. Just go ahead and return an anonymous array list iterator object with the parameters passed in that I showed there. So those were the key problems I saw when I reviewed assignment 4. A lot of people are coming along nicely. Good job. Please make sure that you go through and address all these comments. And as always, if you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to post them to Piazza.